Okay, we're recording them.
Okay, let's everybody silence their phones, please. Or shut them off, whatever works for you. We are recording. We've got a couple people coming in. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Today is Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. Although the agenda says we're a Zoom meeting, we have a Zoom connection with a few folks, but the board and Manager Kangas are intact in the community room. So we're all spread out. In order for everybody to get on the camera, you might have to wave your hands or something. But we are kind of, yeah, there you go. We are kind of spread out. So, if you want to do the pledge, Randy's got a flag. We can all stand and say it this time. All right, join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Randy, please.
Okay, Trustee Marks.
Present.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas. Our legal counsel Roger Zappa is here. Our planner zoning administrator Jason McCarthy is here, and committee members present. Mike Springer is here from Planning, Recreation, and Roads.
Excellent, thank you. We don't have any public here. Any emails or anything, Randy?
I have not gotten any.
Okay. We've got a couple of public people. Does anybody want to make any comments before we start going? No, everybody's good? Okay. Just want to make sure we don't have a time delay and cut you off. All right, so that skips 2 and 3. So tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of regular meeting minutes of September 15th, 2020, work session minutes of September 22nd and of September 29th. We have bills payable in the amount of $139,018.96. We have a budget amendment tonight, 2020-08, so we will do, well, yeah, we don't have to do roll calls here, but we will do it for this case. Received committee and other reports, the road committee agenda for October 6th and the utility billing calendar for October. A few things from the Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority, their meeting agenda of September 23rd, general ledger of August 2020, their display at Eagle Mills parking area that's pretty amazing. Sam Tilden information and House Bill number 5829 for information.
Move to adopt the consent agenda. Second.
Okay. Randy, do you want to read the resolution, please?
I will. Okay, tonight I present to the board Budget Amendment 2020-08, and the highlight of that is authorization is requested to recognize revenues and expenditures for landscape work done at Lions Field and Shenwood Park. Once expenditures are paid, reimbursement will be submitted. Also requested is reclassification of expenditures in the wastewater fund for an emergency lift station repair, which will cost approximately $13,000. Also requested is the 2020 portion of the roundabout activity, which consists of revenue from the MNRTF grant offset by estimated remaining expenditures.
Okay. Go ahead and do your roll call.
Roll call vote is Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, and unless anybody wants to make any changes, I need another motion to accept the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Board of Education says, consider Recreation Committee millage presentation. Does that fall to Dave or Jason or both?
I think Jason has that one.
Jason, want to do your presentation again?
No, let me share the screen. Let you share the screen here, Jason. Okay, you should be able to share your screen now. Yep.
Okay. We were tasked, staff was tasked with putting together an informational piece for the proposed recreation millage. And as such, we've worked with the board at the last meeting and legal counsel to kind of hone in on that verbiage that we want to share with our constituents when it comes time for the November vote. So, as a matter of fact, due to the reduced revenue sharing matters that are out of our control, Marquette Township voters will notice a recreational millage proposed on the November 3rd ballot that is intended to provide current level operation and maintenance funding for our parks and shared use pathways effectively for the next 2 years, right? And then you can see in the box below that language that'll actually be on the ballot itself. So this includes conservative budgeting for labor costs, materials, equipment, and administrative services required to maintain current service levels for the next 2 years. We also wanted to give some background on who administers or provides recreation in the township and what our roles are. So the recreation administrative team, on the left column is, of course, the township board, who provides direction to the planning commission, and the recreation committee, building and grounds employees, and planning and zoning staff support those desires. Tasks and responsibilities include property acquisition, park and property development, grant administration and applications, maintenance and upkeep, and then future park planning by way of our master plan and our future, well, not our future land use plan, but our recreation plan. And obviously in recent years, the township has acquired, developed, and redeveloped recreational property per our master plan, recreation plan, and community survey results. Probably would have been interesting to include a couple of the slides from our most recent survey, but certainly recreation is something that's highly supported in the community, and as well, I would say nationally, when folks are looking to locate to an area, they typically look at, what's your medical service like, how are your schools, and then what are your recreational opportunities. We've had favorable public and private partnerships, as well as grant funding resources that we've taken advantage of. We've developed some great relationships over the last 10 years, and residents and volunteers have also been great stewards of our parks. Obviously, we wouldn't be where we are today without all of those partnerships that have been fostered and nurtured over at least the course of the last 10 years. And as an example, these are just the business, organization, and or corporate sponsors, as well as some of our regulatory agencies, whether they be state or federal. And we've utilized all of these partnerships to, I guess, acquire and develop the things that we have in such a short time. One thing that is omitted from this particular list is all of the individuals, but I didn't really think it was appropriate to include them. Some people want to remain anonymous in those scenarios. So these are the folks that that were willing to put their logo out there and be part of this. So let's talk about cost. Since 2011, and certainly you can see up to 2020, our projected recreational costs This includes everything from labor to materials, administration, those types of things. So you can see certainly within the last 5 years for sure, an increase in the cost of providing those services, and partly that's due to just the amenities improving, more lane miles of non-motorized pathway, maybe not lane miles, but certainly increase in linear footage of non-motorized pathway, and those things require us, the grants themselves require us to maintain those in perpetuity. So there are responsibilities that we have to increase our recreational offerings. We also have responsibilities to maintain them. And wanted to definitely include, our master planning process for the parks, because, these are derived from comments made at public meetings, from our master planning input sessions, and from community surveys. So one of the nice things about this particular master plan is that minus the horseshoe pits and the 35 by 70 basketball court, this project has come to fruition, and something that as a staff member I'm certainly proud of, and as a township board and community everybody should be proud of. This is of course Lions Field, which is in the middle of section 16. Everybody in section 16 is within a 1 mile circumference of this area, and to have a historic platted park in the middle of your, the highest density residential that we have is great. And we've taken care of it. We've brought it back to life. We've closed a portion of the Erie Avenue right away, and have increased the safety there, as well as kind of blended the two sides of the park, or what were formerly two sides of the park, into one park. And these are examples of the things that we've done through our partnerships, through our grant writing, through budgeting in the general fund over the years. So that little bit of, I wouldn't say little bit, but the money that is set aside for recreation has been put to good use. And these are examples of finished products. And the landscaping picture on the middle bottom there is, very recent. And although they're not in full bloom, you can see that the nice touches that we've included as a part of our grant process, and those are native plantings and required to be native plantings. We've had great use of the parks as well. Community days, softball tournaments, live music shows, intramural hockey games, static displays by the fire department and other law enforcement agencies in the area. And it brings together people, which is what, at least in my job, something that's very important is to attract and retain families, young families, old families, try to give people an opportunity to live here, all their lives if possible, and to enjoy a high quality of life. So that's what we work on. And then of course you have the Schwimwood Park Trailhead Master Plan. And boy, this one was massaged quite a bit over the years, but we got it to its current state in 2013 as far as the master plan goes. And minus the final phase, which would be some sort of restroom facility in the expanded parking lot, this project has been brought to fruition as well. And you can see even in 2013, we were already foreshadowing some kind of connection to an underpass. And thanks to the dedication and the hard work of a lot of people, that has also been brought to fruition. So this is this sign was up at the park for a long time when all of the projects were kind of in phases and moving forward. And now we've even expanded it out to include a single track trail that will connect from the portion of Lost Creek on the east side of County Road 492, will connect back through here and out to the tunnel. So it'll be a quick hitting trail for those who desire to get to that location. Yeah, it's just a great thing and something that we're all very proud of, I'm sure. see. And these are the most recent photos from the Schwemmwood Park location. So you can see the trail that's been developed to connect the parking lot to the Iron Ore Heritage grade. And that was a challenge. That had to be an ADA, well, as close to ADA compliant as possible. There are some steeper terrain movements in there, but that was acceptable to the DNR for their grant program. Landscaping was installed, and of course, we've always used and created some kind of uniformity with our park infrastructure, or what we call public infrastructure. The recycling bins and trash bins, and the handicap accessible picnic tables, and of course all of our sign kiosks, which have been nicely implemented by Planner Diedrichsen with some maps and some interpretive signage at the park. So not only can you pull up to the park and hit the trail, but you can also see what's around as far as food and entertainment options, as we're always trying to attract people off of the Iron Ore Heritage Trail and into our business community. And then shared use pathways. This is another segment of our recreational offerings that benefit a lot of people. And we've seen increased usership along the corridor and on our pathways. And we've used a number of different funding mechanisms to achieve that goal. And we're still trying to achieve and reach out and achieve those goals. But obviously with the current situation, we're just going to try to maintain what we have for now and see what happens in the future. As examples, here is the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. This, is just about this time of year, excuse me. And it's certainly a beautiful place, and it attracts a lot of people. And that's kind of serves as a backbone for us. And we are able to spur trails off of that to connect our community to that main artery, if you will. Here is the trail that connects the Iron Ore Heritage Trail on the south to the tunnel on the north. And here's the other half of that photo, if you will, flip the other way. Here's the tunnel going underneath, so you have safe passage for both snowmobiles and non-motorized transportation in the summer. And then you have a pathway now that extends all the way down to Wright Street on the north side of the highway. So folks can come from Bishop Woods or along the Iron Ore Heritage Trail and get right into our community, the community business district, safely and with a dedicated pathway. And then of course on the bottom left, you see what is the fire hall here on the southwest corner, and the township hall on the northeast corner of this particular segment of road, which is Commerce, Moran, and Venture. And you'll see on the north side of the highway here, the Safe Route to School pathway, which was a federal program that we received. So when the residents see this, they don't really understand all the different pieces of the puzzle that come together they just see a pathway, and that's fine. But staff and our volunteers are always working to locate and find areas that of funding that we can utilize to improve our non-motorized network. And of course, we have some national recognition with the North Country Trail and some light infrastructure in the Schwemmwood Park property with a walking bridge that is currently being improved by NTN as a result of our partnership with them. So the recreation millage proposal is in response to a number of factors, but it certainly increased demand for recreational opportunities in the township, increased demand for park facility maintenance and upkeep, big box retail revenue reductions, uncertainty of COVID impact on the state of Michigan sales tax reimbursement, which is a revenue sharing source that the township benefits from. And we're also trying to avoid the deterioration, of in the maintenance of our recreational assets we currently have. And that's the last slide. So we wanted to put this out there, present this to the board, and then whoever watches the board meeting, obviously they'd have an opportunity. And I'm going to stop my share for a minute, and I'm going to share one more screen with you. Let's see. If I can get back to it. I apologize for the delay. Something happened here. There it is. So what we're hoping, or if the board is in agreement, we would include this verbiage, which is language taken essentially from the presentation I just gave you, and put it on the back of a utility bill or a separate mailer at some point prior to the election here. Basically, here's the language. This recaps essentially what we just discussed. And then these are examples of impact to your property taxes based on your home value. I did run these through our assessor. She concurred with the approximate numbers. I mean, they're basically rounded. It was $2.11 or $4.30 if it's rounded. If it's closer to the nearest dollar, it went down, and if it was above, 50 cents, it went up to the next dollar. So they're very accurate, and then of course we wanted to make this available. If people wanted more information, they could go to our website, and there would be a link to the presentation which I just gave in a PDF format, so that those folks that didn't see this, or they got this in the mail, they'd be able to go and then get the further information, which we believe kind of breaks it down a little bit further in the PDF that I just provided you with.
Excellent, Jason. Very good compilation, thank you. I had pulled those costs too for the average homeowner or property owner so that they had an idea. It's, for someone who has a $400,000 home, it's $100 a year. It's not going to increase your taxes a whole lot. And just so the public understands, the recreation aspects of what we do are not required by law to provide them to the public. We've got to do our basic needs providing, and recreation doesn't fall under that. So for all these years, we've just been taking the money to fund these in addition to grants out of our general fund, just our regular checkbook, basically. And this is why, with all of the cost reductions that we've had to absorb in the township and the cities and the county, our general fund balance is going down every day, every year. And this is why the board is trying to accommodate the public with being able to continue to maintain these assets that we have at the current level we're doing. So it could involve future projects besides the maintenance. And as Jason so eloquently explained, we've gone for a myriad of different grants over the years to help subsidize a lot of what we've provided. So those subsidies, some of our committee members have been told, don't go for any more grants because we don't have the money to back that up with a match. So we are struggling a little bit, but I just wanted to have the public understand why the necessity. We're not required to provide trails and parks and stuff. We have to give you the ability to have lights and water and safety and that kind of stuff. So this is the general idea of why we're asking for this. And the other purpose too was to have this presentation, as Jason said, available for the public. And I don't know what, if we want to look at a mailing besides, or if we want to just, we can't even have this playing on the township office computer because we can't have people coming in yet. till we open the hall. So we're just trying to give everybody as much information as we can so they can make their own decision on how they feel with the ballot question. Any comments,
Have you
Dave?
had any questions about it?
I haven't. I don't know if staff has, or Jason, have you had any questions, inquiries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Dave?
I think it's a good presentation they put together. The additional information for the flyer is to the point, and I don't think it's violating. I assume that legal has looked at this and given us the green light on it.
That's correct.
Okay. I think what you're looking for now is the board's approval or the nod to go ahead and proceed with putting this out and putting it on the website and doing the mailer. Is that correct?
Correct. The website's not a big deal. We can have that done tomorrow morning, but I would like some direction from the board on how you'd like to address the mailing, whether it goes on. I don't even know if the bills, from my understanding, the water bills go out on the 2nd or 3rd of the month, which would be too late in our view, or in my view at least, to get it in people's hands that soon. So I'm not sure if it's cost prohibitive to send out a single sheet or if there's another opportunity to put that out there. Email blast, certainly we can do that. And that probably covers a lot of folks. We could put it on our Facebook page, of course, and share that.
We know what mailing?
I was just gonna ask him. Did you happen to check with anybody to see what the mailing would cost?
No.
Stamps? Okay. What we could do is just make it a single page and fold it, put the label on. That would save an envelope. Don't have bulk rate, right? It's the same information for everybody, so it would qualify for a bulk mail.
Yeah, I'm sure we can come up with a quick cost estimate tomorrow.
Why don't you send it to me, whatever you come up with, and I'll let the board know.
I think the board ought to give them the green light to move ahead with this
Yeah.
project.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna go ahead and make a motion.
Got a motion.
I did.
No, did you?
Support.
Okay, Bernie?
If I remember right, Randy said, I'm going back in time, I'm not quite accurate, something around $2,000 for a special mailing. And when you start sending out to everybody in the township, and that's somewhere in that vicinity.
Well, if we do a bulk mailing, it might not be that much.
Bulk mail,
Yeah,
the problem with bulk mail is that they'll deliver it when they have time. If you go first class, then there goes a bunch first class. Bulk mail will be fine. So, but it's just,
see what you can find out, Jason, please.
Okay.
Tomorrow, and we have a motion and a second to go ahead with the mailing, or?
Yeah, it would be my
specifically? Okay,
intention in the motion to go ahead with the presentation, put it on the website, and do a mailing, preferably bulk mailing.
okay,
My only comment would be, as clerk, is we've gotten most of our ballots out by now. So if you're gonna do a mailing, you better do it quick, because those ballots are out.
mhm.
And I'll give you numbers here shortly when I get to my portion of the meeting, but it would have been nice if we could have got this out on the water bill, because most of our ballots are out.
I do have a question for Roger. Are we allowed to spend public funds on this extra mailing for the millage?
It has to be completely neutral content. You're not advocating, you're just providing some elucidation, some additional information on what it's for and how it would impact residents. So as long as it's content neutral, that would be a permissible expense. And I have already reviewed it, and I made a couple of minor suggestions which have already been incorporated in the presentation you saw. So I feel it is content neutral and does not constitute advocating either for or against the ballot proposal. It's
So that
strictly
one page-
informative.
Sorry, that one page that has the ballot language and the cost to the resident, that's the page I was thinking about. And because it's one page, like I said, we could just tri-fold it and put a sticker on it and mail it. I mean, it's part of the presentation, so I'm guessing that would qualify as the item to mail.
Yeah, Roger's reviewed both documents, so they should be good to go, and I'll get you that information in the morning.
Yeah, Jason, you might want to check with Pride Printing or they can print it and ship it quicker than we can do it in-house. And probably cheaper because they have a bulk rate. So I think we did mailings with them before.
Yeah, we've got 29 days till the election, I believe it is, so we should be okay, timing wise, for people to take a look at it.
We should be good.
Yeah, if we can do it, especially if we don't have to worry about staff time. We can get it out in the next couple of days. Because like Randy said, a lot of the ballots are already gonna be coming in, if they haven't already. People are done, you know, they've already decided, so the sooner we can get it out, the better. Okay, let us know. We have a motion on the floor. What else? Any other comments or suggestions?
So the motion will be to move forward with the project and move forward with the bulk mailing of the information.
Right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
One more question, gang. There was a couple questions about the Overstar invoice before I kick it off, or before I get off the meeting. Was that addressed as a part of the consent agenda? No, so
No.
that's coming up. Okay. I'll stay on.
Okay. Jason, I was gonna ask you about the planning conference. That's this week, isn't it?
Yes.
Are you participating or anything, or any of our committees or?
Yes, yeah. Planner Diedrichson, myself, and Planning Commission Chair Springer are signed up for it. And, you know, I'm not going to take time off to stay at home and pretend I'm at the conference. It is something that I'm just going to do in the office as I have time. The benefit of this being online is the fact that, you know, we can really, they're all pre-recorded sessions, so you can kind of watch them at your leisure. And I don't know if they're going to be available after the 7th through the 9th when the conference is, but we'll certainly report back to you on the sessions that we're able to take in.
Okay, sounds good. All righty, so we can move to number 7, I believe. Community linkage. We didn't have anything in here, but I had a couple things I wanted to share. I did get, and I haven't looked in the office to see if there's any more, but I did get 10 of our 23 municipalities in the county signed a letter to the governor. I informed them, if you remember, I sent an email out to everybody saying, I'm going to keep getting the signatures and keep when I get what I figure is the last of them, then I'm going to forward them to the governor. I already told her that I was going to continue to provide them because some of our communities don't have their meetings timely enough that we could have had them all at the same time. So I thought that's pretty good for something that just came out of the blue to have half of the county reply. The other thing I wanted to share was we received another tax tribunal notice, record, whatever you want to call it. Thomas Theaters has already kind of talked to us, and now they're going after 2020 taxable value. They have a 2.142 taxable value right now, 2.1 million plus, and they're asking for 500,000. So I did ask our assessor if she knew what that impact was going to be to us, and she said she had just gotten this too because it was just on my desk. So she hasn't had a chance to see the cost effect of this, but as soon as I get it, I'll let you know. So
They want to drop it down to 500,000?
from 2.1 million to 500,000.
Is it for sale at that price?
Yeah, I know they insuring it for 500,000 and
These are good
the
questions.
bank loan for 500,000.
You know that's not happening.
Yeah. And what do you pay for a Coke when you go in there?
Free.
It's like $5
Yeah.
just for a little. $12 for a popcorn. That probably cost them 20 cents. I don't know. These people are getting pretty bold. I had to share that with you. I also got a call from the Census Bureau, and they're wondering what we have spent so far promoting the census. So I don't know that answer. I'll return her call. I'll try to get back to her tomorrow, because we didn't really expend funds other than, you know, discussing it at the meetings, putting it on the website, and so that's all I have to share. Is anybody
Almost
here?
illegal to have,
Pardon?
you know, that adjusted down to 500,000 and your insurance and everything else. You know, there's gotta be some legal stuff in there that.
Well, that was the whole purpose of trying to get the governor to pay attention to what we were, you know, although it was kind of a sideline thing with the appointment, it still involves the whole tribunal.
I think also, once you get the impact from the assessor, this is something I've been talking about, is putting out on the website and send a blast out on our email of this happening. So people know what the costs are and what it's going to affect us, which is a direct effect on services within the township.
Sure. If it's not the fire department, it's just the light bills or the mortgage or whatever, you know.
It has to do with the roads, because we bonded on our next number of dollars, and all of a sudden, they're not coming there, so we have to make it up through the general fund. So these are the things people have to be told.
We're losing $100,000 a year roughly out of the general fund.
We can't go in there and say, well, the show's not that good, I'm just gonna pay half.
Yeah. Yeah, try that. Go to Walmart and say, I don't want to pay $2 for a gallon of milk. I only want to pay 50 cents. What's the difference?
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to belabor that, but I did want to try to keep you updated when I hear this stuff. Anything else? What are you hearing from the public? Anything? Nothing, no phone calls or issues or questions? Okay. All right, let's move to board committee updates. Planning, Mr. Dave.
Yeah, rather a lot of information, so I'll try and get through it as quick as I can. The September 23rd Planning Commission meeting, the commission was presented with a FOIA request regarding the Michigan Aerospace Manufacturers Association, and the consensus of the commission was that that needed to be forwarded to the board for their consideration. I believe it has been.
Should come to me as the FOIA officer, Dave. That FOIA request should come to me.
No, it was information that was supplied by a resident that she had requested the FOIA information, and she supplied it to the commission
Oh,
for their consideration.
okay.
And I'm sure we forwarded that on so that it could be distributed to the board for their consideration.
I've seen it. You're saying you want it to be an agenda item?
No, I'm just saying it was passed on to the board. The
Correspondence?
commission can't, and the reason being is the commission can't make any recommendation about it one way or the other, but if the board wishes to weigh in on it, the information is there. That's why it was forwarded onto the board.
Okay.
Okay. The medical and adult use marijuana zoning ordinance text amendment was moved to a public hearing on October the 14th at 7 p.m. The associated draft recommended board ordinance received a few final edits and was moved to the October 14th commission for final review. The timeline for the much anticipated marijuana zoning text amendment and the associated recommended board ordinance is October the 14th for the public hearing. And assuming both move forward from there, it would go to a approximate 30-day review by the county. And assuming that comes back without any further recommendations, the November 11th commission meeting would move the zoning text amendment to the board for first and second reading on November 24th and December 1st. The recommended board ordinance that will be traveling part and parcel with that to the board should be presented to the board for their consideration not later than November 24th meeting. The zoning text amendment to allow for and regulate mobile food trucks was moved to a public hearing also on October 14th, 7 p.m. And that's it for the planning commission unless there's questions.
I have a question.
On the October 14th, is that a face-to-face or Zoom?
Zoom.
Okay. John?
The zoning board of appeals will hold a meeting and a public hearing Tuesday, October the 13th. They have a request before the board on a dimensional variance, a front yard dimensional variance.
Saw that come through. Okay, what about recreation?
Don't have the recreation right in front of me here, but the recreation, just a quick one on that, is we've been working on that informational packet to move forward to the public for the recreational millage. And that's about it for there.
How about the roads then?
The road committee is, last month's meeting was canceled, but at tonight's meeting, just prior to this meeting, the committee did make a motion to recommend that we have a proposal for bids for the 2021 road rehab. We put that together. The prices don't look like they're outside of our budget. Most of it, I would say, in the 90% category, come out to be crack seal. There is one road that RoadSoft has recommended for a chip seal plus. That was put on as an alternative. And then, we've talked about that GSB 88, doing some test sites on that to see how that holds up. That is also going to be recommended for an alternative bid addition to the crack seal. Crack seal, RoadSoft puts out the prices that they think it's going to come out at, and those prices were adjusted after last year's. Last year the actual bids exceeded the RoadSoft suggestion by quite a bit. RoadSoft has been tweaked to represent those final numbers. The crack seal, it's recommending about a $48,000 cost. The chip seal plus is suggesting about a $15,000 cost. And those two test areas for that GS 88 is $4,500.
How big of an area is that? Just like a block or just
The-
like 50 feet?
The chip seal plus is only half a mile. It's on Brickyard Road between the roundabout and Northwoods Road. And that's the only thing that's up for chip seal this year.
Where are you gonna do the GS 88?
The GS 88 is Farner looked at it and recommended a rather extensive area, which we pared down quite a bit. It's going to be the road committee's recommendation that we take a look at a section of Fair Avenue between Ontario and Erie. That's suggested because the road's in pretty good shape there, and the road has to be in pretty good shape for that GSB 88. But there's a lot of traffic there, so we should be able to get a good idea how it wears. And the other section was on Brookton Road between US 41 and South Vandenboom, because that's another, it's got a lot of truck traffic on it, and there's a lot of heavy traffic on it. It'd be a good area to take a look at.
So you're doing that, like that block?
Yeah.
And 4,500 for both of them?
Total.
Or each?
45 for both.
For both,
Yeah.
okay.
But we're not sure how well those prices are going to hold up because they were obviously put in for a larger area. So we don't know if the unit price is going to go up because we whittled that down to about a half a mile.
So it's almost 70,000. Isn't our budget closer to like 55 or
The
60?
the budget we have proposed for next year matches what we ended up spending this year, which is just under 69,000.
Okay. Well, but we added money to that ourselves. We didn't even, the village, the bond wasn't gonna cover it for this year. We had to add general fund money.
I
And there's
apologize,
that
just-
general fund money going down.
66,928.
Yeah, 67 then.
And that's why those, the chip seal and the GSB 88 was put on as an alternate bid so that we can get the main work done first.
Okay, so it's kind of an if then.
Yeah, and the board should get that recommendation from the road committee before their next meeting.
Okay. Because you want to try to get bids out right away.
Yeah, sooner the better.
Get 'em
If
out.
we get them out just prior to the first of the year, right after the first year is fine. We beat everybody else at that.
Yeah, get it scheduled too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you seem to get better prices then.
Yeah. Any questions on the roads? How about events? What are we gonna do, mister?
Vince, we're gonna have, we're working right now on, for November 24th at the mall. We're working on the new poster. We're trying to get all that done. We got a couple of trees out on K.I. Sawyer. Todd, and they're gonna take a look at that one. We're working with Super One as far as helping with some food and that. And that's working through the health department. We got regulations of what we can do, what we can't do. And they're very excited about helping us with, they were last year and they're doing it again this year. And so that's exciting. We got Santa Claus lined up, we got their Grinch, and they're going to work with the fire department, you know, as far as bringing Santa in. Everything's got to be spaced out, masked. When you come in the door into the mall, you're going to go in on the right side, come out on the left side. We're going to have people there trying to maintain the distance, 6-7 feet. And we think we can do it safely. As far as it stands today, we don't know what the ruling's going to be. She could change it coming up. So, but we're going to go ahead and plan it. So I think we've got another meeting next week, or I got to look at my calendar. But that's what we're working on. Get the tree. It's bigger than last year. We got a couple different trees to look at the air base. So we'll get that in here, get it worked out with our public works department, and then get the lights on it. And that's all set for the 24th to turn it on. So we'll have some music out there with Santa, the Grinch, and you know, I'm sure hoping we can pull it off because we canceled a lot of things. So
What were you talking about with Santa and the kids? How, you know, will he
what we're
be
gonna do, they're
involved
gonna
in?
have Santa at the very end. We'll have him in a chair. We'll have a bench or something in front of it, and they can't get close to him. They can't sit on his lap, so they're sitting on a bench. You can take the picture from a distance. And we'll probably have some candy canes or something like that. So we're working on that. So, and it's kind of fun to work with a Super One because, you know, when you work on someone who really enjoys it and put 100% into it, so it's kind of nice. So that's what we're looking for. Like everything else we got the uprights for blocking things off. We might need a little more help. Just maintain distance and stuff like make sure people got masks on. And that's about it. Set for the November 24th.
Excellent.
We'll give you more coming up. So
Okay, Steve?
It's going to be interesting in the light of the Supreme Court decision on how that affects what you're doing there, if all her stuff becomes illegal.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. It
Might wanna
changes
keep-
week to
Might
week.
want to keep a close eye.
Yeah.
We're getting bombarded with updated emails. There's legislation being proposed to impact not having to meet in session due to the Open Meetings Act. That's moving very rapidly. We're gonna have to just keep an eye on it and hope that we don't completely lose the event.
I'm sure Roger's keeping track of it for all of his municipalities anyway. We're all kind of in the same boat.
And we're gonna have some, maybe some masks there, people who don't have them, sanitation things, stuff like that, so.
We should be able to use some of your, didn't you buy dispensers and stuff for the election? Yeah, okay. We can take those, couldn't we?
Yeah,
That'll help.
yeah, we'll have that, and anything different from that one, hose them down going in, hose them on the way out. I don't know. I bought a little UV light, and I don't know if that works or not.
We'll get a spray like a shower. I gotta walk through that.
Yeah,
More I listen to what's going on in the government, the more we get disgusted with it, so.
Well, even the Department of Health and Human Services ruling that came out to basically replace the repeal of the executive orders or whatever the Supreme Court decision caused. I don't want to get the terminology wrong, but that still allows non-residential events, 25 people per 1,000 square feet where there's no fixed seating. So the mall is pretty big. And obviously you're not counting in the areas that aren't being used for the event. You can only include the corridor that people are going in and out. But I think we could fit quite a few people in that long corridor from the front of the building all the way to the back and not violate that order.
It's usually pretty packed too, so lots of people in there.
Yeah,
That's
one
what
of
you
the-
have to do. You got, it says here about the crowding. You get careful of that. Anything you have is, have all food and party favors set out individually. You can't just keep, put them in a big bucket and have everyone grab them. They have to be all separately, you know. You have to make sure you got plenty of area for hand sanitizer, and at least 60% alcohol. Stay 6 feet away, wear a mask, and I mean, they send out different things like that to us. And
I think with an event like this too, because you do have families participating as a group, you can't put a mark on the floor every 6 feet because a family takes up more space than an individual. So you almost have to put the marks every 15 feet or something like that, just to make sure your groups are still properly socially spaced.
So could you put some kind of a streamer literally down the middle of that mall rather than just the doors and keep people in that in and out?
yeah, that's
line?
what we're trying to.
Or, you know, some
And
kind
we'll
of,
have openings in the center so often, you know, so in case somebody don't want to stay, they just get out, so.
oh, okay,
I still got some cement uprights with the iron pole in it. We can put streamer,
mhm,
plastic tape on it, or, you know, from ribbons from the police department or something like that. So
mhm,
I think I got some of that stuff in my garage yet. So.
okay.
But with that, we can work out. It's just if we're allowed to have it, that's
Yeah.
the big thing right now.
Yeah.
But you will have the tree up anyway, so that's, the tree's gonna happen. But as far as Santa and the food and stuff like that, and the gatherings, and, you know, we have to pay attention to that, so.
Okay. All right, keep us posted. We have no committee reports, draft committee reports. So policy discussion, we've only got 3 agenda items. Consider salary increase for all township paid officials, which means the township board, board of review, planning commission, and the ZBA, zoning board of appeals. This discussion came up a couple times over the last few years when there was a period of time that the township board did not get an increase for somewhere around 9 years. And it isn't that we're doing this for the money necessarily, but the township wants its committees to realize that they're appreciated too. So some of that is just a token of thanks, but we do have other committees that are paid. Planning commission gets paid for meetings, and if there are special meetings that are conducted by or as a request of builders or contractors, those people pay for those meetings, so the township isn't responsible for those. But board of review, you know, our volunteers are here all day in 2 cases, you know, twice a year. That's pretty significant. We all know that we spend a significant amount of our time working on township business. So part of that discussion was also the election workers, and that came up. So we decided as a group, or we just kind of discussed for our work session, that it might be nice to have just a flat amount of money and just do the increases on a regular basis, whatever that percentage is or dollar amount, so nobody has to worry about it, and just implement it. Obviously, if the next board doesn't like this, they can stop it, or the board after that. But for right now, that's kind of what the discussion has been. There are recommendations in the packet, and the amount is 2.5% increase that we're looking at for 2021. And overall, it will end up costing the township only $1,500 for the whole year. So it's not a huge expense because we don't get paid, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. But it's a thank you and, you know, kind of helping people pay for their time that they donate, semi-donate to the township.
And when was the last time that was done?
2 years ago.
2017 for the 2018 fiscal year.
Yeah, okay.
2 years ago.
Dave?
The problem I have with the motion, recommended motion, the way it's presented, is it is presented as a one-time increase.
Okay,
We've had this discussion before. I think it needs to be, just do it annual, it stays in pace with everybody else that works here in the township. And I don't see it where it includes the election workers in this.
well, we did a separate motion for that.
Yeah, there was a separate motion. We increased the election worker pay, I believe, a couple meetings ago. And I said we don't have to include them because we will review their salary in 2 years again, in 2022.
We actually had two motions.
Yes, we
had
did,
one
so.
doing it for them, and then you made another, or someone did, a motion to implement it.
Well, no, well, we implemented it and then we will review it in 2022. So, so that's where that stands. It's not appropriate to put them into this because they've already got their increase.
Right.
I don't
Maybe
know,
in
I
2
don't know if
years,
you want to leave the
we can
2.5% in
together.
there. So I think that should be, every year maybe you should discuss that because a lot of other things that you've got coming up, it's not a 2%, 2.5%.
And it doesn't say, this says, like Dave said, for the 2021.
Yeah, okay.
So we could word it differently to say for this year and on, unless the board chooses to make an adjustment or something.
I guess what I would like to see it say is to approve a 2.5% annual increase beginning January 1st, 2021. And then the balance of the way it reads.
Okay.
Roger's waving his hand there.
Okay. Ernie, were you gonna say something or you want Roger?
Let
first?
Roger
Okay.
talk.
Go ahead, Raj.
You need to exercise some caution here in terms of you cannot decrease a salary or a pay for an elected official, for a board member, once the pay has been established. So the more prudent methodology would probably be a 1-year increase, and then it continues at that rate, at that pay rate, until you do something again. But I would need to see the language specifically if you're looking at an annual increase every year. I have some concerns about that from a legal standpoint. And let me restate that. I didn't state that terribly well. A motion or a resolution now that attempts to put an increase in every year, and let's say we have negative inflation, if we have a recession, something to that effect, do you really want to continue binding yourselves to having an increase when you don't know what the future holds? And the ability to retreat from that is questionable.
There's some union contracts, around there, 1.5 and stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. You're setting the bar a little bit higher, so the next time you have to, in the area, you negotiate a contract, it has to be 2.5 or higher.
Well, we chose 2.5 because that's where our contract people are right now.
Right. But that's not saying you do that every
Yeah,
time.
it doesn't have to.
I know the other contracts we're dealing with is 1.5 and stuff like that. Because of the situation that's going on and stuff like that. City Marquette, some areas had no increase and stuff like that, so.
Ernie?
I think the 2.5 for coming year is fine. And like Roger says, on elected officials, once you're in there, you can't do anything, decrease their salary unless that official agrees to it. Otherwise, it's there for their whole term and that. And on the elected officials now, you have to, if my memory is right, each elected official has to be voted on separately.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can't do it as a bulk one. And then
That is correct, with one minor exception. There should be a separate resolution for the clerk, the treasurer, and the supervisor. You could have one that encompasses the trustees as a group because they all get the same thing and have the same duties. So for the board, for example, you would need 4 resolutions.
Yeah, and that on November 17th, the clerk was planning to present that to the board because that is still in the previous board's term. And those resolutions are actually done and legally reviewed. And they do state that you get a 2.5% increase until basically the board does, I think board changes it really, right, Roger? Something of that nature.
Correct.
So
But
it'll
it's not intended as a 2.5% increase annually.
No, just,
It's just an increase for whatever percentage the board determines. And then the board, if they feel that inflation has impacted the effective rate, that can be readdressed next year, or it can remain in effect for the remainder of the term. But I have some serious reservations from a legal standpoint about attempting to implement an annual increase in a single group of resolutions.
so it should be voted on every year, you're saying.
Every time you change it, you should have a separate new resolution.
Correct, yeah.
So it wouldn't, let's say we pass this and then for 2022, we look at it, it could still not be done, right? You could still,
Correct.
you're not going to do it this year. So that's not reducing the salary because.
Well, it is reducing the salary. If you were to vote now that you're going to implement a 2.5% increase in 2021, 2022, 2023, for example, and 2024, and you don't do it, that's effectively a pay decrease.
Okay, that's what I meant, yeah.
Whereas if you just adopt an increase now and you readdress it in 2021, you can adopt. There's nothing preventing you from adopting another 2.5% if that's the board's preference in 2022 for the 2022 year. But you should, in my opinion, should not be adopting a resolution to prospectively put that increase into place now for those future years.
So you're only going 1 year at a time, really.
Roger, if we went 2.5 this year and 2% next year, you're going back a half, and that's still correct.
You can do that, or you can do 0 next year. My only comment is you should refrain from attempting to set the salaries for multiple years.
Okay.
Sounds to me that's a budget question every year then, so that should be included in the budget cycle and then we can adopt it every year.
Okay, or not.
That's more prudent.
John, I don't know who of you had
Go
their
ahead,
hands up
Dave.
first.
No, go ahead.
My review of what we had talked about and what it would amount to, and what we're talking about tonight. There's no problem with the idea that we had to have and the concept of having a across-the-board increase for paid employees. Nobody cares about that. I don't think even the citizens will lift their heads on that. It's when you add officials, it begins to draw everybody's alarm. And oddly enough, even that is not fair, because for the largest official increase that's being proposed in this, it would be for the supervisor, and it amounts to $1 a day increase. It's not a considerable amount, but I would like to suggest that we consider deleting the township elected officials from this and then go ahead with the resolution as it stands.
I'm not sure what you mean. 'Cause in the motion, you mean? To remove?
Well, the motion would be to carefully delete reference to elected officials.
Okay, it's
So
not
what-
in this recommended motion.
What I'm hearing is a modified recommended motion to approve a 2.5% increase for 2021 for the Board of Review, Planning Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals.
That's right.
That's what I'm hearing.
Let's get rid of the target that's gonna appear. And Lynn, for you and the other three officials, we should take care of that on its own. Even in this, the four township trustees, if they were to receive what they would have received if we passed this just the way it is, they'd get $100 a year.
And you're being generous with your numbers too. It's $96.
Okay, the point is, let's get rid of the target and get on with what the intent of all the work that went into this. And that's to have a common across the board increase for these not township board, but board members, commissions and whatnot, and employees. Just the way that our managers just said.
So you don't want to itemize each board? You want to just say boards and commissions?
No, the way he read he
He
edited
eliminated the
the,
words "the township board" from the recommended motion.
Okay. So you don't want the board to get a raise?
I'm not saying I don't want to get a raise. I don't think it belongs in here.
Okay.
And I think we would be wise to delete it.
Where would that be then?
Yeah.
What?
You want a
How would
separate
you do
motion?
that? How would you do that, John?
You go out of your way to point out that it doesn't include the township board.
How would you give them an increase?
How would I give them an increase? I would for you, I think the suggestion that the attorney made that we address the supervisor, clerk, and our treasurer separately. Look, why would you even want to bring up an increase for the trustees?
Dave, I'm still kind of confused.
And I think what John's talking about is a motion to approve a 2.5% increase for 2021 for the Board of Review, Planning Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay.
The
Period.
second part of that
Or
would be a
an additional
consensus,
motion.
would be it's not even a motion, it's a consensus of the board that the clerk present 4 resolutions to be considered in November
Oh, I got you.
for the board. And you can take them separately and based on their own merit.
Okay.
Does that pretty
That
much
makes
cover it,
sense,
Roger?
Roger?
That makes sense.
Okay. I got you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for that translation.
Support.
That was a motion.
Okay, okay. So to approve 2.5% increase for 2021 for the Board of Review, Planning Commission, and ZBA. Correct?
Correct. And Ernie had his hand up.
Joe, did you?
Are we going to talk about the elected officials again in October or in November?
Well, the resolution I've planned is the 17th, and I imagine we'll have some budget sessions before that.
But we have to have a work session we can't do anything with.
Correct, but,
Special session we have.
correct, but consensus wise, you can tell me what you want.
Okay.
And I can modify the budget to reflect this $1,500, which is less than 0.1% of the entire budget. without an issue. So it's a matter of if this is the motion you want to proceed with now, knowing that Clerk Rotari will present the resolutions in November, we can still accommodate that in the budget, no problem.
Okay,
That's fine. I got the resolutions ready. I just gotta know what numbers we want in there.
so Pete, are you okay with 2.5 for these 3 committees, or do you want to talk about the
No,
number?
that's fine. I just wanted to point it out, that's all.
Okay. All right, well, we have a motion and support. Any other discussion? Okay. Is this is not considered a resolution, it's just a motion, correct?
It's just a motion,
Because it's not
and
presented as a resolution.
we basically are setting the salaries of our Board of Review, Planning Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals, which does not require a resolution, correct, Roger?
I believe that's correct.
So there's no resolution needed for this.
Okay.
It'll just go into the budget as different, as reflected.
If for some reason somebody finds out we need one, we can do it at the next meeting then. But
Yeah.
at least we'll have this motion on file, or on record. Okay, all in favor then?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So November 17th, you said?
Yeah, I will have the resolutions for the officers and the trustees on the 17th of November, which is this board's last meeting.
Okay.
I just want to say that in all these committees and different things, a lot of people out there, they don't realize the time and effort you put in these things, And I think the people who take on these things, they're not doing it for the money. They did to go find a part-time job.
I didn't think we got paid at all when I first
I
signed
never
up.
knew what, somebody had to tell me what the heck we
I just figured I was volunteering.
Yeah,
And I got my check and I'm like, what's this for?
Checks kept showing up, you're not sure if you're supposed to give them back or.
Yeah,
hang on to them.
I must be the person who died before me or something.
no, but there is a lot of time, effort, a lot of expense for people at their homes. As far as, if you do printing and that stuff, we don't turn that stuff in, so.
Okay, thank you for that. Next is the review and approval of the Overstar landscaping invoices for the DNR grant closeout and reimbursement. It's not the DNR, is it?
Yeah, there's three
Yeah,
grants
it is
involved.
DNR. Okay.
One trust fund, there's 2 trust fund grants and 1 recreation passport grant. I think
Well,
I
yeah,
got that
so it's
right.
not
Is Jason
DNR.
still with us?
It is the trust fund,
It's MNRTF. is
Yeah,
one, it's the
not the
one.
DNR.
And the other one is passport grant with Jason.
yes, so.
This Overstar one,
we've
Jason
all-
brought it up.
Yeah, we all have the
But-
same question.
I asked,
Are you ready?
signing checks, all of a sudden I saw this exactly the same amount, so I asked Lois to check on it, and I got an email back. from her. It has to do with the grants. I think Jason can probably explain it better than I can on that.
Yes, sir. So, thank you. This invoice is for the native landscaping, which was a scope item on 3 grants, and it actually got us some more points on our grants applications. Regardless, that work has been completed, and the invoice you see is for Overstar's work, who is subcontracted then through Mark Meister, actually. They brought somebody on who has a lot of knowledge in that category. Anyway, your question revolves around 2 separate invoices with the same number of dollars, same work, but 2 different invoice numbers. And you'll also notice on those 2 separate invoices that there's different grant numbers that they're associated with. And that is a requirement of the MNRTF, so that when we go to file our final reimbursement, which we'll be doing if you guys approve those tonight, once that payment's made and we can get a copy of the check from the bank, we'll be submitting our reimbursements. And that's just for accounting purposes. So that the cost was there, but it was split in 2 to reflect 2 different grant awards that were made, if that answers the question. Hopefully that does, but that's basically it.
So Jason, The first invoice number 94072 is for grant number TF 14-0133. And invoice number 94073 is for grant number TF 15-077. And the scope of work and total cost for each of them is identical. It's just two different grants.
Yeah, it's just for tracking that accounting and making sure that the MNRTF knows that we fulfilled both grant awards.
So wouldn't it have been easier maybe just to put even a different date on the invoices, or, you know, do 7 plants and 5 plants rather than splitting it down the middle? Or are they going to be okay with this? They're going to get this?
In my experience, as long as Lois is okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Randy?
Yeah, I checked with Lois and everything was fine on the accounting end, so I will move to approve the landscaping invoices 94072, 94073, and 94074 from Oberstar Incorporated to allow final grant closeout and project reimbursement. And that cost of all the invoices is $16,909.
Support.
She's under budget.
Good.
Okay.
I caused a lot of discussion, but I caught it when I happened to go through signing checks, and all of a sudden I had 2 invoices with the same amount of money.
So did Trustee Wiegand and so did Supervisor Durant.
Good job.
Yep, I saw it too. Was reading it, going, "Oh,
At least we're all looking at this stuff.
yeah,
You're just making sure you're paying attention. Yes, thank you.
yeah, this was a test, wasn't it?
Well, it was tough to get the landscaping in. That was the final scope item. And there was a delay last year. We didn't, if you remember, we didn't get any favorable bids. And then this year, we bid it very early, and that really helped us a lot. So thanks, guys.
Mhm.
Just make sure if it happens, you can ask the question.
Yeah. What else? Anything? We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.
for hanging on. Consider and approve emergency repair of Center Street lift station pump. The first thing you have to do before you even explain this is say how fantastic your staff worked.
Thank
How
you.
hard they worked.
I appreciate that
How they
reminder.
jumped in and you didn't even hardly know what was going on and they took care of it.
That's 100% true, what Lynn just said.
Yes.
For those of you that aren't aware, I left fairly rapidly on Wednesday afternoon, just after getting these memos to Andra for the packet, because my son had to get tested for COVID. And I figured, I'm the guy driving him there. I probably better not come back and float around the office until we know what the results are. So I took a few days off, and we already had one pump out of service, and we had to decide what to do with it. The cheaper, quicker option was to have it rebuilt as opposed to ordering a new one. There was a $4,000 difference and double the time to have the new one shipped from overseas, which is a problem to us, but we can get into that. In the meantime, while I'm off on personal time off, pump 2 fails. I didn't know about this for, I don't know, it was a period of time. And then I get a phone call saying, oh, by the way, pump 2 failed, but we got it under control. So what happened when pump 2 failed, now we have a lift station filling up with no pump to pump it down. We have a portable bypass pump. We installed our pump. It worked for a little bit and it failed. And I wouldn't say failed, it just couldn't push. It probably just is not quite sized enough for Center Street lift station. We also had a check valve that we had to clean out, and it probably just got gummed up because we hadn't used the bypass in a long time, and that's what happens. You have some solids that build up and then the parts don't move right. So we went and borrowed the bypass pump from the wastewater plant, compliments of the city of Marquette and our partial ownership in the wastewater plant itself. Their pump has been working great. We have to run it 4 times a day. So first thing in the morning when the guys get here, right around lunchtime, right before they leave, and then in about 2 hours before everyone goes to bed, somebody will come out, run that pump for about 2 hours, draw it down, and then it's good again until morning. So these guys handled everything perfectly. The second pump will get pulled when the new pump arrives. It'll be installed sometime a little bit later this week. In fact, I think I had an update from Lenny. I'm not finding it. Oh, the rebuilt pump is on its way. It's being delivered. So this emergency situation is probably going to be over within a couple of days. We're now very well versed on what we need to do if the rebuilt pump fails on us. In the meantime, Lenny and I will be looking at what are our options so we're not tied to these pumps coming from overseas in a time when you can hardly get anything that has to be manufactured. So I've been talking to all the other agencies around us. They keep landing on one supplier that they all really like working with. It happens to be one that we didn't have great success with in the past, so we have to figure out how to overcome those issues. But if everyone else is having good success with one supplier, it's probably our best bet to look at that supplier and make sure that it's a good idea. They do have multiple pump options. One of them is made in Ohio. They have their own plant, they have their own inventory. I don't know what the lead time is on a pump, but coming from Ohio, I'm sure is a lot quicker than coming on a boat or plane across the ocean. So we're looking at that. The guys have been doing great. Lenny was off the last 2 days, or we'd probably even have more info for you on where we're headed. But I had talked with, Lenny and I had talked with Lynn heading into the Public Works budget work session about these very issues, in that we have 2 pumps that failed, and prematurely, mind you, due to very abrasive materials being in that wet well that shouldn't be in there. And I think it's construction related upstream. We can't prove it, but that's a pretty strong conclusion that we've come to. We have one good pump coming back, but we're still down another pump. What are we going to do? Are we going to replace this remanufactured pump with 2 brand new pumps and put the remanufactured one on the shelf as our spare for the future? What are we going to do? And we have to look at every lift station accordingly. We have a spare motor and impeller for 1 pump, and that's for a very specific lift station. So I explained this in an email earlier today. You can't just pull a pump out of a different lift station and put it in a different one, because the flow rates will be different and the head will be different. The head being what's your low spot in the lift station, what's your discharge point, so you have to overcome that elevation, plus the friction in all the pipe and fittings to get there. So every pump has its own curve. You can't just swap pumps, interchange them between the lift stations. So it's kind of a challenge. You don't want to have a garage full of inventory, but you want to be able to keep these systems operating without spending a bunch of man hours and emergency procedures to avoid a sanitary sewer overflow. And not to take anything away from the guys, I think they did a great job, which is why we pay them to be here. So very little overtime, 1 guy, 2 hours a night. If we go through the weekend, obviously we're talking 4 different trips out, but I think we're going to have this pump operating by then. So it's a matter of making sure that that pump is running and that our SCADA is going to let us know if that one fails. So
Anybody else got the same pumps in the area for backups?
to find one that happens to be that close to the pump curve of the specific pump we have would be, I don't know, 1 in 10,000 probably. Just because your flow rate can change so drastically and your head can change so drastically.
Right.
So
It's nice to know that they got it and they took care of it. So
yeah. And the decision that we made to have this pump repaired was Lenny and I sitting down discussing it, what's our best option? And Just so happened that the most affordable option was also the quickest in this case. So we made that decision knowing that you're going to have to approve it after the fact. So hopefully you will, otherwise we'll take it out of Lanny's paycheck.
So what we're trying to approve tonight is, whoops. Because I told John, I said, you need to have two. You need to have two pumps and then put this remanufactured one on the shelf as a backup. So what we're asking tonight, or he's asking, is the repair, but then we're gonna have to look at what do we have that we need to buy.
Yeah, so this specific
they decide
request is to approve the cost of the repair. And we'll come back to you with an additional request to replace both pumps, knowing that the repaired pump will become the spare for the Center Street lift station.
Who had,
Dave.
Dave, you first?
Okay, if I understand all the communications that was flying around today, we've got 5 lift stations.
Correct.
Each lift station has 2 pumps.
Yep,
So we have 5 different sets of pumps.
correct.
So if the Center Street lift station gets, we put the rebuilt pump in the Center Street and we order another pump for Center Street. If we get 2 new pumps for Center Street and we pull out the remanufactured and put it on the shelf, then we just have a spare for Center Street. We don't have a spare for anything else.
100% correct.
Okay.
But replacing them, didn't you say that we would go with the same type in the future? So with.
When
so
we
they'd be
settle
all
on
the
a
same.
manufacturer,
Right.
which is settling on the supplier, that's who we want to stick with, knowing that we will have consistent, reliable supply chain. That's the plan.
I guess it would be my opinion that once you get this 2 pump issues in Center Street resolved, if you end up with one remanufactured pump and 1 new pump, that's probably the last one that's going to fail out of the other 5 or the other 4, right?
Yeah, we don't have to take expeditious action on the other 4 lift stations, but we need to start planning to get that shelf pump ready for the other 4.
But the shelf pump can't be ready for all 4. It's going to be ready for one of the,
We
No,
would have to have 5 pumps sitting on the shelf.
no,
Right.
no.
Now, the other part I didn't get into that was in the email I sent you earlier is we may have alternating motion pumps in some of these lift stations. I was told one of them is that way, where the motor spins in an opposite direction depending on what side of the wet well the pump is in. We don't want to stock 2 pumps for that lift station. So we got to look at, do we need 1 spare housing and 2 spare motors? Or is it 1 spare motor that can run in either direction depending on how you wire it? So we got to figure some of these details out, and we won't waste a bunch of money just to have a whole laundry list of parts sitting on a shelf. We want to have a reliable replacement set so that we can address any situation that would come up if both pumps fail.
won't a lot of that matter on what you find out for a new distributor, how quick he can supply you with parts?
Yes,
If you're within a week or so of getting a new pump or motor shipped up here,
then we won't stock it.
there's not a lot of point in stocking.
Right. If we're talking a 6-week lead time on every one of them,
Yeah.
then we probably need to,
Yeah, you don't
because
have
we
any
can't,
choice, but
we
the
can't have
chances
guys
of both
operating.
pumps going out in the same lift station, I mean, it happened here, but it's slim to none. I mean,
This was a unique situation that we believe was caused by upstream construction activities. So one of the things that we also should consider is having somebody pump every one of these wet wells down at least once or twice a year, so that if we do get an accumulation of highly abrasive material in there, we get it out of there before it does too much damage to the pump.
Good idea.
It's gonna cost a little bit because you have to pay for the pumping and the trucking, but it's probably good preventive maintenance.
Even with this replacement one, there was 2 weeks on the, and I shouldn't say replacement, the repairs, was still 2 weeks on repairs.
yeah, I'm just thinking because he's going out to find somebody more local,
Mhm.
so it might be less than that. If it gets less than
Yeah.
2 weeks,
Yeah,
I don't know, it makes a lot of sense to spend, what are you talking, almost $16,000 a pump?
That's, yeah, 16 to 18, probably.
For 5 spares?
Right.
Well, and then if you can wait and have
You
them
got all those
rebuilt
at
and then
the
put that one on the shelf, you don't have to have 2 new ones and replace the one that you were using.
Yeah, so the reason these lift stations have 2 pumps is because of the 10-state standard requirement. You're not reliant on 1 pump. So 1 pump goes down, you still have your second pump that it just runs twice as often. Instead of alternating the way they're designed to run, the 1 pump that's left will do all the work until you get the second pump back in service, which is why you don't normally need a shelf pump. But as these stations get older and older, you probably need to start thinking about it because the likelihood of 1 and 2 pumps failing gets higher and higher.
Do I understand Center Street situation well enough that the actual bypass sends it over to Wright Street?
The bypass pump sends it to the same place as the lift station would, and I can't tell you exactly where the force main discharge is for that one. I would guess it's eventually, yeah, it probably is to Wright Street.
Okay.
Yeah, so it gets pumped to Wright Street, then up to the highway.
Andy?
Okay, I'll move to approve the emergency expenditure of $12,892 for the lift station repair.
Support.
And my comment would be on that is, John, do we need also a bigger bypass pump? So down the road, if for some reason the city can't help us, we have our own equipment that we can deal with it.
That will be the other part of the equation that we have to look into and figure out why the pump we borrowed from the city functions, but ours didn't. And I just have a feeling our pump is a little bit undersized for the amount of head it has to overcome pump from Center up to Wright Street.
It's working it.
Yeah, it just has to work too hard and it can't physically push that much water.
So if you have a reliable bypass pump, that might help you with stocking spare parts too.
Yeah, there's a situation where 1 pump could handle all 5. It just has to be sized big enough to handle the biggest of the 5. It won't work on the smallest, it'll work the hardest on the biggest, so.
Yeah, if you were down to, you've got 5 different sets of pumps, and you didn't have to carry any spares because your new supplier could get them to you within a week or 10 days.
That would be the perfect situation.
And you just had to look at buying 1 standard emergency pump that was big enough to serve any one of those stations.
I would agree with that 100%. If we can find a way to make that work, I think we'd all be pretty happy because it's the cheapest option.
Plus too, we have it in case, for instance, if the city runs, we could loan it to them too. They've been very good to us with their equipment.
Mutual aid doesn't just happen between fire departments and police departments. It happens between public works departments all the time. The city bailed us out in this case. If we can bail them out the next time, I think we'd be more than happy to do it. So
I'm not trying to micromanage anything you do
no,
here. I just find the whole scenario kind of interesting that we're backed into that corner just because of the likelihood of 2 pumps at the same lift station.
right. And it's why we don't currently have all those pumps sitting on a shelf now, but it's forced us to think about it harder to determine what the best path forward is so that we don't have to rely on manpower so much in the future if it happens again. So
where are we, do you have an idea based on, you probably don't have this year's budget, you've got 21's budget, to have funds available if we need to do this year?
I would definitely want to check with Lois on it to see where we're left at after this expenditure, because this is coming out of contingency. And I think we already took some out of contingency due to the overlap of Kirk and I, with Kirk staying until the beginning of this year. That also pushed his buyout into this year. So there was a chunk of overlap that we had to move from contingency to cover that. That was a prior budget amendment. And now this, I want to make sure that if we do it, we push the purchase far enough out into the year where it's not gonna put our remaining contingency in any kind of peril of going over, because
Or at
now
least-
we've exceeded the safety net into reserve, and we don't want to do that if we don't have to.
And at least know if we have to do it next year, then we need to amend that budget
Right,
for next year too.
yeah.
I would strongly suggest amending next year's budget to buy a big enough bypass pump.
Yeah, once they figure out what they need.
Yeah, that's probably the quickest thing to do. If we know the pump that we're borrowing from the city works, if we can get one of identical size, that's probably gonna be the best bet.
We can always order it and put it on this year's budget, even if we don't receive it right away. Because it's purchased, technically it's purchased this year. We may not receive it until next year.
Let's find out what one of these pumps costs. One
And how
portable
much money we have.
bypass pump might be the same price as 3 pumps sitting on a shelf. We don't know that yet. We'll find out soon enough.
Just because they tag an emergency label to it, it might be just double.
And they put an
the price.
axle and wheels on it.
There you go.
After I read this a couple times and I go back and I said, I wrote a very good report, good update, keeps us up to date on what's happening. I thought that was well done.
Yeah, and makes their jobs easier too, if they know we're on top of this stuff. And if they come to us or you with something that they want or need, or is an exception, we understand what's going on, so we can just say, yeah. Or how about trying this or that? You know, you guys have some water knowledge besides just the department, so.
Well, I think the key in all of this is the more we communicate, the easier it is to explain to all of you and the public why we have to spend money we didn't plan on. So hopefully these are rare occasions as opposed to common occasions.
You should tell Lenny and his staff how much we appreciate them just taking care of things.
I will.
It means a lot, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
You don't have to worry about it.
they're kind of the silent workers, you know?
Right.
They just show up in the night and fix things.
Well, it got to the point where Barry told me, we got it covered, John, don't worry about it. I still called him yesterday afternoon, how's it going? Don't worry about it, it's covered. So, both Lenny and I were off yesterday and they took care of it. So the dirty work was done before yesterday, but they kept it moving. You don't have to babysit them once. When they know what they need to do, they go and do it. So.
At least they had the wherewithal to do it too.
Yep.
They knew what to do. Okay, I think we still have the motion, don't we?
We do, and we
We've
do have,
talked so long.
and we do have support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's your $12,000.
You didn't even have to get into Ernie's stash.
I'm hiding that now.
Any more emails or I shouldn't say more, but any emails for public comment?
No, I don't have any. I don't know if Mike wanted to share something. I can't download his pictures during the meeting, but if he wanted to share something during public comment, he's welcome to do that.
Have you got something, Michael? Oh, there he
there
is.
he is.
Thought maybe you went for a beer or something in the meantime. Listening to us talk about pumps.
I don't know if you heard what you want them.
You have anything to share, Mike?
I did. I sent some pictures, I thought, but maybe not. Just
You
that
did,
I
Mike?
thank Jason McCarthy and the planning staff and management for supporting my request to participate in the Michigan Association of Planning Conference. As Jason mentioned, a lot of these things are pre-recorded, and I had the opportunity to look at 2 of them today. One of them had to do with stormwater management, which I believe Lenny and former superintendent of public works, John Kingus, would find of interest. Also, the other one I looked at was our very own climate and health presentation with Wayne Bea, Brad Newman, Aaron Ferguson, and our very own Jason McCarthy. It did a very nice job on that. So it's a great opportunity to learn things. And now that we have these virtual conferences, you can actually look at some of these things at your own time. And that's what I did this morning, looked at 2 of them. There are some live ones, which I plan to watch as well, but this is a great opportunity, these virtual conferences, and thanks for the opportunity to do that.
Thanks, Mike. I did get approached by FTA, speaking of virtual conferences, to see if I'd participate in one that they were doing on Zoom meetings. And then when all this stuff hit with the governor not having to do Zoom meetings anymore, they put that on hold. So apparently they were going to do a whole segment on Zoom meetings and how they work. And I said, yeah, I'll help, whatever I need to do. But so it's on hold.
And I'd like to say, Mike, good to have you back with no patches on your eyes this time. So glad you're all right.
I live to tell about it.
Do we want to know what happened, or should I ask them?
No, before, a year ago, we went
Oh,
a limb, tree branches.
okay. Thought maybe this was something new.
No,
So no other public comment. Any announcements from anybody? You got something, Randy?
Yeah, a lot going on in the clerk's office right now. We're getting a lot of calls lately about absentee ballots and things, and as of today, we've gotten 1,487 ballots out. And so most of the folks that have requested them should have them or should be getting them in the next few days. So if you haven't gotten them, give us a call and we can trace when we send it out, or when we sent it out, and hopefully we can get you another one if it disappeared for some reason. So with that said, 1,487 is as of today, we've sent out. Our total voters in Marquette Township is 3,669. So we've almost have half the township have voted absentee as of now. And we usually get about an 70% turnout in this election. So I expect the precincts to be rather steady or light, not heavy. So as the primary, it was steady, but it wasn't overwhelming. So with that said, we will be in the office October 31st, Halloween, Saturday, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. to receive or give out or take or receive any absentee ballots that need to be given out or taken in. And your last chance to spoil an absentee ballot is Monday. I think it's Monday sometime. I'll get that time, but it's Monday afternoon, I believe. So and we've been getting a lot of calls lately. Where's my ballot? When are you sending them out? But I know as of last Saturday, because I did 80 myself, that was the last of the precinct ones to go out. We did them alphabetically, but so both precincts are out. We are just getting the stragglers coming in as of now. We'll get those out as soon as we get them in. And election day, polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And that's about a month away.
And Ernie?
Randy, I didn't check coming in. Do you have a sign over there that this is the ballot drop box? Or can you do anything like that out there? Because I see people, I happen to be in the other conference and looking out there, and these are the older individuals looking around where to put it in there.
Yeah, we do have signage there. What we did is we made our drop box 3 times bigger. We bought a new drop box for the inside. I felt it wasn't necessary to put one outside. So we have signage there that says secure drop box. Make sure your ballot is signed and it can go into this drop box. It's right by the front door of the township hall. And we did, like I said, we did make it 3 times bigger because the other drop box was getting pretty stuffed. So we should be able to handle the increased ballots coming in, and it's emptied every day. And I probably myself will come in on Saturdays and Sundays to empty it just to make sure it doesn't overflow.
Mhm.
And then for the residents, it's a secure drop box. It is locked, so there's no one going to get in there. And also on that, some of these expenditures we've gotten from the elections. I did receive a $5,000 grant from the Tech and Civic Group, and it did not require a match. So it was $5,000 of free money basically for the township that I am spending on election items such as the drop box and allowable expenditures under the grant. So it will help keep our budget where it should be. We won't have to, I can't supplement the budget with it, but it won't make it any higher than it needed to be. So that's good news for the township. We got free money for the election to spend.
Great.
And with that, I guess I'll answer any questions that anyone has about.
Do you have enough workers, Randy?
Yes, I do have plenty of workers. I'm going to run 2 shifts in the absentee precinct, which I'm allowed to do now. I am not allowed to open ballots before election day because we don't meet the 25,000 resident population threshold. But we will be starting at 7 a.m. on election day in the absentee precinct. I'll run 2 shifts and then we got electronic letter openers, so that's going to open the letters quicker. And hopefully we will be done by 8 o'clock at night. Well, as of right now, I got 1,487 ballots out. If I can do 100 an hour, that's 14 hours. So I'm hoping to do more than that, but and I'll keep you up to date. There is a recent ruling that Michigan is going to allow, and Roger might help me on this, but if you're postmarked by, what is it, the 2nd of November, your ballot might be counted, something of that nature. It's going to cause nightmares in the election, trying to close it out. So I don't have any information what the state is going to do about that yet, or I know there's an appeal pending on that. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but if it does hold up, we might not have results immediately.
And go into the next day when you get mail.
Well, they're going to let it be postmarked. We might have to keep the machines open for 3 or 4 days until the mail comes through. We don't know yet. The state's going to have a guideline on that, but all I know, it's going to be a mess if that happens. Am I correct in saying that, Roger?
That's correct. It's kind of a to be determined, closely monitor situation.
So I hopefully the state upholds the original deadline, which is 8 o'clock on election day, and we won't have that problem.
Okay. Any other announcements from anybody? Manager's report.
So you do not have a written report this time, and I apologize for that. It's kind of slipped my mind on my rush out the door last Wednesday. No excuse for it, you should have one. One of the most important things I feel we need to address this week in particular is figuring out what the impacts of the governor's action to move the UP back to phase 4 and requiring employees that can work from home to return to working from home, what the impact of that is relative to the Supreme Court decision that came out moments later, and any types of activities being done by state agencies as a result of the Supreme Court order. So I've talked to Attorney Zappa. He's going to help us try to figure out what we should be doing if it's any different than what we are doing to minimize the township's liability as an employer and any impacts to the employees by continuing to be here, knowing that the UP is currently experiencing a spike of cases. So we're working on it. We're gonna do what we think is the right thing to do. We'll keep you informed. If there's any drastic measures, obviously, if we need to call a special meeting, we'll do that. But we'll try to make sure that we do what's in the best interest of everybody, given the current circumstances. And, you know, I do feel that our work environment is pretty safe and that just about every employee in the building has their own workspace. They can close their door. I think the last information I saw, you don't have to wear the mask until you have 2 people within the same enclosed space. So, and that's because you can't necessarily maintain that social distancing, right? So if we're all working alone in our own offices, we're fine until somebody has to come in, and then you should probably both put your masks on. If it's a group bigger than that like this, we probably should all have our masks on, especially if we're getting any closer than where our seats are located. Other than that, I'm going to reserve any further judgment until Attorney Zappa and I have had a chance to talk about this more. I know he's working on it. Excuse me.
Okay, any questions for the manager?
One last thing, we did dodge 2 COVID bullets here. So as far as I know, we still don't have any positives within staff. So one of those 2 being my son had a negative test. And then the employee that was tested was negative also. So that's good news. Hopefully we'll stay in.
Will they be tested again?
What's that?
Will they be tested again, employee?
Not unless new symptoms show up.
You just hear on the news that, you know, they've been tested, but then they've been tested again, then the 3rd time they come positive. So, I mean.
Yeah, well, you know, anytime you expose yourself to somebody new, that new person could be a carrier.
Right.
And we are the vector. So Lynn and I hear it every week from the health department. You can tell they're getting pretty burned out right now. The only way for the virus to move is when we move. So if we get together in groups, one person could expose everybody in that group. So social distancing, masks, washing our hands, not touching our face like I just did. Hand sanitizer or washing frequently. So
You have enough masks and everything, John?
I think we're okay for now. We haven't really had a huge demand for masks. If we need them, we'll do what we can to get them.
Yeah, what about shields rather than masks on the workers when they go out to work? Would they be better than masks?
I don't think the
Remember-
science really supports a mask necessarily.
I mean, the shields or the mask?
The shield, sorry. The mask is what's supposed to trap the droplets, right? So,
And the health department doctor said if you have a shield, you should still wear the mask.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's why
Not
you
that they
see
couldn't.
healthcare workers wearing both, and a lot of them will wear 2 masks and then the face shield. I'm not sure how they breathe, but I guess they get used to it.
I have a hard time with it.
I have a 95 at home, I found, unused, that's still in the carton. So if you ever need something, let me know.
Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. You know, Public Works got 2 different shipments through, I think it was rural water. We picked them up from the wastewater plant. All we had to do was say we needed them. This is how many employees. They gave us 5 per employee, and we got that many twice. Teresa Schwalbach from County Emergency Management had given us a few boxes of these, this style, which we have hanging by the main entrance where the employees come in. We try to I think Andy's been restocking them every day, so we're never running short. I'm sure if he sees his stock running low, he'll order some more well before we run out. So I think we're good. Cleaning supplies, though, we've been going through a lot of cleaning supplies, even though we're not open to the public, because you still have to disinfect all these workspaces every day, so.
Motion
Anything
to adjourn.
Not yet. Review the motions, Brandy, please.
Okay, the first motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second motion was to approve the regular agenda as presented. Third motion was to approve the rec committee millage presentation and to go forward with a mailing on that. Fourth motion was to approve the increase for the border, 2.5% increase for the Border Review Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. Fifth motion was to approve the grant closeout and reimbursement for the Oberstar landscaping invoices, and that was approved. And the sixth motion was to approve the emergency repair of the Center Street lift station for $12,892.
Excellent, thank you. So future agenda, we'll see about that FOIA request and whether or not we want to talk about it. We can either mail it out to everybody and.
Yeah, we just thought that that was something, the board should have that information, not the planning commission.
And if we feel like we need to put that on for discussion, we can do that. Somebody.
Jason has a,
Okay.
if you want to get it.
I think I
have it.
did get it too. I just never
Yeah.
read it.
It's rather
It's very
80
lengthy.
some pages.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I skimmed it, but. And then we'll talk about the resolutions on November 17th. We'll keep that in the back of our mind. Any board member comment? Bernie?
One thing on the recyclables. With October 1st being what they keep saying, we're moving on that. Are we still continuing the procedure we have now, 1 week on solids and next week on?
I think we are now at single stream, but it does not include glass. The solution for glass does not exist yet, but it will be there soon, and it will not be in the single stream. So the single stream is a combination of your plastics, metals, and fibers.
Can we put it just in one of those?
Yep,
Everything can go in the same bin.
Okay.
When do the containers come out and how much?
As of right now, we're still waiting to hear on that second grant. If we're awarded the second grant the way we applied, we should be able to provide every residential property, single family home in the township, a cart, which is probably, I think it was about 3 times the size of the current green bins that we have. A rolling cart that North Country can actually pick and tip with the arms they're putting on their trucks. And it would cost us about $1,000 to $1,500 for an education program. And then any cart that we order that doesn't go directly to a home, we wouldn't necessarily get reimbursed for, because the first grant we get only pays for carts that actually get delivered to a property. So if we order extra for inventory for future growth, which I think we should do, that cost would be on us. And then it's a matter of if we charge those
I
customers.
think Nagani ordered 3,300, and then they did order some extra for growth. So.
Yeah.
Are we getting two a house?
This is only for the recycling cart.
Only
There
recycling.
wouldn't be a garbage cart. So
Okay.
we'd have to talk about that completely separately. And I think if we do consider garbage carts, we actually go to the larger size, because the small carts, well, maybe have the option, because a household like mine needs 2 of the small carts. We just barely fit our weekly garbage in the bigger cart, which is not the size we're getting for our recycling, so.
I think the house next to him needs 4.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's more than just one property too, so.
No, this is one property.
Yeah, but there's probably more than one property like that in the township.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I have is that, I think it was Sunday, I went outside to go someplace and I saw the township ambulance there, and the other ambulance, city ambulance was there too, the hospital ambulance. I didn't hear nothing until I got out there. And I have to say the EMS individuals there knew what they were doing. There was no question about this. This individual had collapsed between our stoop and the car. and they didn't have much room to operate, and they really worked. And they were looking, all of a sudden, they went and got a big blanket, and was ever gonna need to use the blanket to move this individual around, and they knew what they were doing, and it took them a while. But I have to say, this individual was out, I mean, completely out.
I heard that call. It was just
So,
like.
but they did an excellent job. And the communication between them was relatively silent. It was just, they knew what they had to do and they just did it, and that too, so. I
And
have
have
to
you
comment on that too, so.
Have you noticed no sirens?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying it. I don't know if they're gonna just do it 30 days or see if they get complaints or whatever, but
There's no
there's
sirens?
no sirens.
That's why I didn't hear anything.
Mhm.
Yeah, the siren has been off and it's been intentionally not advertised because we don't know if this is going to be permanent.
It's a
This is a
trial.
test to see how it impacts their response.
Yeah.
So if it's a negative impact on response, it might not be permanent. And I would support that if that's the case.
But just so you know, I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot to put it in my notes that they're working.
I didn't even hear the siren
You
on the
just don't
ambulance
know.
going down the road.
Hmm.
And that either, from either the hospital one or ours. That,
Must not have been an emergency to get there then.
I don't know. We
Yeah.
can't get much closer than the house right there and that too, so.
But yeah, just so you know, they're working. They're just
Okay.
not running the siren.
That's fine, that's all.
Anything else?
I'd
Yeah, Dave.
like to extend a thanks to John. The freedom that you can get information is refreshing. If we had gone through this whole pump thing a year ago, we'd be walking out of here with patches of our hair pulled up. It's nice to be able to get the information and have an open discussion and actually understand the information you're getting. And so
And
I
get them what
thank
they
you for
need.
that.
Yeah, and get them what they need too.
You're welcome, but I think a lot of the thanks needs to go to Lenny too, because he handled all the dirty work on it. I just helped him with the final decision on what to do first, so.
I think what Dave is saying, overall, everything we're getting.
Yeah, everything from the budget hearings to this pump thing. It's just easy to get the answers you're looking for, which is refreshing.
Well, that's good to hear, and I hope you let me know when it's not that case too, because eventually that'll probably happen unintentionally or maybe intentionally, but hopefully never intentionally.
And you know, we don't have any budget sessions set up either for the future. You want to wait until the 17th to set something up for that next week?
See what happens.
You still have to go through, you know. And
Yeah, we definitely had the work to do on the reserve funds, that whole discussion, and that needs to be the other priority that Lenny and I are working on for the water and sewer funds. I think we need to take a closer look at the general fund as well to figure out if we can predict how far that's going to be drawn down next year if every one of these dark store cases is a worst case scenario. We talked about the 2.1 down to a $500,000. What that does to our revenues and our fund balance due to 3 years worth of refunds. What do we even have left? Do we have the minimum operating fund and reserve that we need according to all of the recommendations? So that'll mean some more work from Dulcie, unfortunately, because she's constantly crunching these numbers and that spreadsheet only gets bigger, right? So I don't think the TV screen we have is big enough to show that spreadsheet in legible format.
well, and this request from the theaters for this year
Right.
besides.
Yep.
And she's already talked to them.
Well, I'm eagerly awaiting the budget definitions and the fund balances and retained earnings assignments, see how that all comes out, so.
Well, Lenny and I already talked about starting with the definitions, because if we don't get that part right, then we're probably not going to get any of it right. So that's kind of the goal.
I'm good with that.
All right.
Well, we can set budget sessions and after the election next meeting too.
Okay.
And I think that was kind of the consensus from the last one, is we weren't necessarily going to rush. We were going to take the time to get all of these other materials properly put together.
Yeah, and and I don't think the board has too many issues with the current budget, so I don't think we need too many more sessions, really.
I'm kind of thinking just one.
Yeah, just to
I'm not
wrap up.
waiting until December 30th to decide.
You're only gonna get one compliment out of him anyway, so.
I'll take whatever one I can get.
That's it for the year.
No, we just have to make sure we get everything kind of wrapped up by the middle of November, because John has to post the public hearing for the budget, which is going to be early December, so.
Because you have to do it 15 days before that meeting.
Correct,
So-
yeah, correct.
I think December 18th, you have to have it done.
Yeah, there's some timelines there that me and John have talked about, the manager, so we're well versed in when we need to do that.
If you don't do that, then you have to have a special meeting, because you have to have it done by the end of the year.
Right.
So,
I think the December meetings are December 1st and 15th.
Yeah, we should
Sounds
be
right.
wrapped up we could probably do it December 1st, I'm thinking. If we get it wrapped up in the middle of November.
So we can schedule something the week after, either that week of the 17th or the next week.
Or even in the middle, I mean, even before the 17th, just after the election, which would be good.
no, if you do it on the first meeting, that will take care of it, because then it's just advertising it. And you get done by the end of the year.
Well, we'd have to set, if we're gonna do it, we don't have another meeting until the 17th. So we would either have to do it right now or sometime next.
We got one meeting in October, then that meeting in November is the Wednesday after the election.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Other days.
so I suggest next meeting, we set
Yeah. I
a
put
couple
it on.
budget dates, and then if we don't need them, we can cancel.
Sounds good. Nothing else? John wants to make a motion or he's gonna fall asleep. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna make it.
Move
No?
to adjourn, I'll make it.
I'll second it.
Okay. I don't even have my, time is it? 8:36? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 8:36. We are adjourned.
Take the recording.
Thank you, gang. Thanks for holding on up there.